Hi and welcome to another King's Christian Collegiate Comtech tutorial. We've been looking at making stop motion animation in iMovie. And what we're going to do now, after we have imported our material, we have made some adjustments to make sure that the images aren't moving, we're going to go on to the next steps. That is to export into an MP4 file. We're going to add titles, transitions, music, and sound effects, so that in the end we have a complete animated stop motion film. So the first thing we want to do, now that we have all of our adjustments made, is to go up to File and Share. And we want the theater default, or you could just hit Command E. And let's call it Mugshots Animation. So we can see here that it is saving right here, this little white bar. And we'll wait for that to do its thing. Sometimes it takes a couple of seconds. And now it is finished. So before we do anything else, we want to drop Mugshots Animation. This is now an MP4 file on our desktop. So let's just grab and drag and drop it. It's called Mugshots Animation. That's what we're going to look for. That's what we're going to drag back into our iMovie program. So drop it. We'll go over here to iMovie, back up to File, New Movie. No theme. We'll call it Mugshot Animation Final and click OK. Now we want to import our media. So we can click Import Media here, we can go up and import media here, or we can hit Command I. Let's do it that way. So hold down Command and hit I. So we're looking for Mugshot Animation. So double click, and now here is our final video file. So double click it to make sure it's active. We know it's active completely because it has the big yellow box around it. And drag it down into our timeline just like we did with our original images in the other tutorial. And we have our animation as an MP4 film. Now we want to add a title. So it's very simple. You can go to your titles, and let's grab Expand. There's probably 20 different versions here, different types of titles you can use. We'll just grab this one for the sake of it and drag it here. And what do we want to call it? Let's call it Mugshot Animation Fest. Why not? Enter. Now, down here, make sure that you see that title show up down here, because otherwise it'll disappear on you. I've had that happen many times, and then if it just says insert text or something like that, that's what will show up in your final animation, and you don't even realize it. So make sure that this matches what you want it to say. So we have our introduction title. Here we can see that it is 4 seconds long. That might be a little bit long. We can adjust the length simply by going to this edge. You'll see these 2 double arrows, and you can drag it out to make it longer, drag it in to make it shorter. Let's make it 2.5 seconds. So just drag it over until it's 2.5, and now that title is going to last for 2.5 seconds. Now as we go along, it's going to play the title, and then it's going to jump right into our animation. We might not want that. We might want a more subtle transition. So let's go to transitions, and let's choose any one of these. Again, there are probably 20 of them: cross dissolve, cross blur, fade to black. Maybe I want it to fade out and fade in. So let's grab fade to black, and we're going to drop it on that line right between our introduction and our animation. We watch our introduction now. Fades out, fades in. Sometimes you can change the duration of this fade, but it all depends on how much video you have here. This is pretty short, so it might not work, but let's give it a try. Say we want this transition to last 2 seconds instead of 1 second. If we double click here and click 2 and click apply, the clips do not have enough media for the transition. So, okay. So it could be that this is the issue, or it could be that our title is the issue, but one of these doesn't allow for enough overlap to have that transition. So that takes a little bit of playing with. It's probably our introduction that is too short, but that's okay. If we wanted to add a title on top of our video, we can do the same thing, only instead of dropping it in front of the video, you drop it above your video, and now it will show up on the video. Mugs. But we don't want that. So we're going to highlight it, make sure it's yellow, delete it, and this is our title. Now let's say on the other end here, we want to do some closing credits. That's perfectly fine. We will do that as well. Let's look for another one. Let's go to pop-up. We'll drag pop-up over. We'll drop it here. We want it to say the end. It's going to last 4 seconds. There we go. We don't want that jump, remember, so we're going to go over to transitions, and this time let's do a cross dissolve. So what that will do is actually overlap the two images as opposed to fading out and fading in. You can drop any one of these in there and see what's going to work best for you. These are the two I chose just arbitrarily. So we have our animation, we have a title, we have a transition, we go through our animation, I'm going to skip it ahead a little bit, and we have our closing titles. Now, this is pretty boring though. It's 21 seconds long now, and I can't hear anything. We tend to connect to audio. It helps draw us into an animation, so we want to put some music in there. You can use audio files from iMovie. There's a whole bunch of different things built in. You can also use music from your iTunes library, or you can download music from any other online free music site. There are all kinds of royalty-free music sites that you can go out and find. It takes some time to a little bit of looking around, but there's all kinds of opportunities to find music. I really strongly caution you about using licensed music. You don't want to use something from Madonna or Metallica or something, because they own that music and you're really supposed to pay a royalty to them for using it. And if you do use it, you might get tagged on YouTube. You might even receive something in the mail telling you to take your material down. Use royalty-free music if you possibly can. I'm just going to grab the first music piece that's here. This is called Acoustic Sunrise. Just going to grab it and drag it down into the audio layer and let it go. So let's see what it's like now with our music. So the music kind of starts to fade out, but not really. So let's say we wanted to have a more pronounced fade. Let's make sure that our audio is active. You know it is because it has the yellow box. Grab this little circle over here. You'll know it's active because it'll show you fade audio out and the double arrows. And you simply grab it and drag it back. And so it'll start to fade out at wherever you drop that dot. So now if we listen to this music, you'll hear it start to fade out. Now it's a much more obvious fade out, much better. Let's say we want some cheering or clapping or some other kind of sound effect as well. You work sound effects exactly the same way as you work your music. You just go into your library and you find something that's appropriate. I'm going to look for a crowd cheering, which I know is available in our built-in sound effects library on iMovie. And we're almost there. Cheering Crowd Studio. So I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to drag it wherever I think is appropriate. Usually it sort of comes in right before things start to end. I'm going to drop it right there. Let's see how it sounds as we come to the end of our animation. Sounds good to me. Now you notice that this one did not crop to the end of our animation. So there's a couple of ways to do this. The most simple way, make sure it's highlighted and active, and go over to the end, grab it here, not here, and you don't want to fade it out. You want the long double arrows, and you're just going to bring it all the way back. And maybe you want it about there somewhere. And we're going to fade it out just like we did the audio. And let's see how this sounds. Good. I'm going to bring that fade just a little bit more, and maybe I'm going to have it last just a little bit longer. Of course, this is all going to be different for your own animation project. Do what's suitable for you. We're simply going through the process. And that's it. That's our entire animation. I'm going to make an adjustment with our title. So I'm going to drag my title back over. I'm going to drop that back here. We call it Mug Dance. And let's look at our final animation. And that's it. We finished our animation. We've added titles, we've added sound effects, we have added transitions, and we've added music. There's nothing left to do except go up to File, Share, and Command E or Default, and our final animation will upload onto our computer. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and have fun with your animation.